We're following breaking news. The jury in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial has begun deliberations. Closing arguments ended a short time ago. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane has been covering this trial. He's at the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. So, Scott, what time did the jury get this? What do we know about jury instructions, and how did each side present their final word?
About 3:30 p.m. on the East Coast, the jury got this case after 6 days of trial and after 3 hours of closing arguments from prosecutors and Hunter Biden's defense attorney. So much of the closing arguments came down not just to an argument about facts, but an argument about the calendar. October 2018, you'll recall Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty to possessing a firearm while being a drug user and making false statements about drug use to buy that firearm. In October 2018, he owned the gun for about 11 days. The prosecutors argued through this trial and through closing arguments today is that Hunter Biden had a history of drug addiction, that he sent text messages in that key month, October 2018, indicative of drug use or drug transactions, and that he knowingly violated federal law. The defense nearly a dozen times called the prosecution conjecture and suspicion and said what the prosecutors have done is misappropriated the calendar, that they've condensed previous drug use or post-drug use and alleged it happened in that key month instead. The jury will get to hammer all this out behind closed doors at a courthouse that typically closes at 5 p.m. Eastern time, but they have the latitude to stay open later if the jury asks the judge permission to do so.
You know, Scott, one thing I find so interesting is that each side, the prosecution and defense, is taking, one statement and there are two separate conclusions. I mean, for example, prosecutors, they say that the fact that Hunter Biden had been in rehab in August of 2018 was proof that he was an addict when he purchased the gun in October of 2018. The defense says that that was proof that he was moving past this addiction. And the prosecution says that the law doesn't require them to prove he was using that day, just that he knew he was an addict. The defense says that the prosecution does need to prove that he was using drugs that day. What is it that the jury is going to need to decide here for these 3 felony counts?
That issue really has permeated this entire case and trial, and did so again today during closing arguments. It is a weight-bearing thing for the defense. The prosecution argued again today, as you said, that because Hunter Biden had been in rehab, had attempted recovery, that he knew he was a drug addict in October 2018. Or the defense says because he was attempting recovery in rehab, he may have considered himself something other than an addict. That's one of the things this 12-person, this 6-man, 6-woman Delaware jury will have to wrestle with. But the prosecutors won a jury instruction battle earlier today. The jury need not be instructed specifically that Hunter Biden knowingly made certain statements in that gun background check form, but that he simply made the false statements about his drug use in the gun background check form. I mean, these are the things that the jury will have to work its way through based on the trajectory of this case and those 3 hours of closing arguments this afternoon.
So I'm sorry, I just need to understand that one part that you said about knowingly. So the jurors take that word out of their deliberation, or that in order to find him guilty, they have to find that he knowingly lied on the form?
That's a great question. I want to be clear on that. The word knowingly was not added to the jury instruction forms in certain sections. Here's the bottom line of that issue. What prosecutors have said is that you don't have to be using drugs at the time you fill out the form, or within a very finite range of time when you fill out the form, that a steady prior addiction or a post-form addiction is indicative of somebody who should have checked off that box. Whereas the defense is looking to make an argument that in that moment, in that time frame, Hunter Biden did not believe he was making a false statement, therefore cannot be convicted of it. It's the kernel of the defense. The jurors will have to weigh that among the many other things they heard during what was an unequivocally and consistently sad, emotional set of testimony and 6 days at this federal courthouse.
Yeah, if you and I are spending this much time just talking about it in one TV hit, you can imagine the jurors who are going to be going back and forth with that detail. Scott, let's talk about the venue. This is Delaware, of course. This is an area where the Biden family hails from. They've been a strong, steady presence in this trial so far, and yet the prosecution in their closing said the evidence is the evidence, not who's sitting in the galley. Walk us through potentially how the venue could or could not make a difference here.
That was one of the most memorable moments of this day of this trial, when the prosecution, beginning their closing arguments, made reference to the jurors, to the people in the front row behind Hunter Biden, which has included most of this trial, the First Lady, the president's sister, Hunter Biden's wife, and other family members, each of whom is a recognizable face to a Wilmington, Delaware jury where the Bidens are a household name. The prosecution is trying to say, pay no attention to those people behind the defendant. Pay attention to the facts we presented and the testimony you've been given. The First Lady has been here all but one day of this trial, the day she was in Normandy with the president on the 80th year mark of the D-Day invasion. It's hard to imagine the 6 men and 6 women on this jury have not noticed the First Lady's presence here.
3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on June 10th, the jury gets the case in the first criminal trial against President's son. Scott, thank you.